This chess game was recorded over 400 years ago, making it one of the earliest recorded chess games in history. Now, this was recorded by a famous player today called Giosio Greco, who lived in the early 1600s. Now, because this game is so old, over 400 years, we're not actually sure if Greco played the game himself against an opponent, so it's possible that he was playing white in this game against an opponent and he played a beautiful game, but it's also possible that he composed this game, meaning that he made moves for both white and for black, and simply tried to compose a beautiful sequence of chess moves. Both of these are possible, but for this video, I'm just going to pretend that he was playing against a real person. Now, in this game, Greco starts off with the move e4, and his opponent plays the move e5. Now, of course, Greco has to play the King's Gambit because this is the early 1600s, and of course his opponent is going to take the sacrifice because they don't know how to reject gambits yet. Now, the move knight to f3 is played, and the move g5 is played with the idea of playing g4 next by his opponent. Bishop to c4 is played, and the game gets absolutely insane. The pawn attacks the knight, but Greco sacrifices his bishop with the move bishop takes f7. Of course, you can't run your king up the board, you have to take this bishop like so, and knight comes into the middle with check. So in this position, the king really needs to retreat back to the square of e8 in order to be safe, but his opponent black does not do this, and they move up the board. Now queen takes g4 check, and the knight is being sacrificed by Greco. You do not want to run back because now lots of pieces will be attacking you, and this is very bad. So the best move here is to take, and that is what happens in the game. So now white is down a full 5 points of material and needs to checkmate black at some point, or they will simply lose being down so much material. So a check by the queen, the king is forced to move, and if you move to this square, which is the other option, the d4 square, you just immediately get checkmated. So black does not blunder into this and instead moves the king to d6, and here white plays the move d4. I really like this move because the bishop is getting active, and these pawns really do a great job of controlling the king. The queen can go to many of these squares, and this simply cramps black's position quite a bit. And here black blunders. They play the move bishop to g7. Here black needed to try to retreat with the king, but this is very hard to see, and of course this move looks much more natural, simply developing a piece. After bishop to g7, bishop takes with check, the king is forced back, and here after bishop check, if the knight blocks, there's ideas like pushing for e5, and now the knight is pinned to the king, and white will win back some material, but here instead, bishop blocks like so, and in this position, the pawn is pushed, bishop is forced to take, and after check, the king is moving back, another check, the king moving back. Here, white castles, and black is absolutely screwed. All of white's pieces are far too active, and black is about to lose the game. And so in this position, the queen is trying to trade with white in order to simplify into a winning endgame for black, but instead, of course, white checks the king moves, and white sacrifices the rook. Now, this is an incredible idea because if the king moves, there's going to be tons of discovered checks all over wherever the rook moves, and if the king moves up the board, there's going to be a very quick checkmate. So in this position, black takes the rook with the knight, accepting the sacrifice and going into a forced checkmate. Now the king is forced back here, and here the knight check sacrifices this pawn. There's lots of checkmates depending on where the king moves, but the game is prolonged after the king takes this pawn. The queen gives a check, the king moves here, and after this pawn check with the move b4, the king is forced back, and the game ends very quickly with a queen check. Notice how trapped the king is. There's really nowhere for it to go but the corner. And here, knight to a4 is checkmate. A truly brilliant king hunt by Greco. Whether this was a real game or composed, it still shows brilliant ideas, especially since it was in the early 1600s. Thanks for watching the video, and subscribe for more.